I'm Dr. Erica Bove, and welcome to the Love and Science podcast. I'm your host and also the founder of Love and Science, Thriving Through Infertility. I'm so excited you're here today. With over a decade of experience helping thousands of women just like you, I empower professional women to build their families with confidence and compassion. Let's dive in. Hello, my loves. We are back to the Love and Science podcast. And today I have such a special guest. She is a friend. She is a colleague. Her name is Dr. Isabelle Amigues. She is a direct care rheumatologist in Colorado, and she combines Western and Eastern modalities to really tell people and live this, that she's not the first rheumatologist that people see, but she hopes to be the last, meaning she gets to the root of the problem. She sees them as a whole person, uses holistic modalities to really bring about complete remission. And, I think about that in terms of like what we do, obviously, and for the fertility world, like our quote unquote remission is when somebody gets pregnant, stays pregnant, and moves on. And so I would love to spend the time we have welcoming Dr. Isabelle, and also, sort of thinking about what insights that she can lend on our listeners to help them, make their dreams a reality. So thank you, Dr. Isabelle. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having me. And most importantly, thank you for all the work that you do. As you know, it was a pretty harsh journey for me to have kids. And so I wish I knew you existed before, because I would have absolutely invested in someone like you, and I'm sure my journey would have been a little bit less painful.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because our paths, we have to go over the dates, but I am pretty sure our paths crossed at Columbia when we were both there at the same time. And I mean, clearly I was not the same version of myself, then as I am now. And I hope that in 5 to 10 years, I'm an even more evolved version, but it's wild to me because I think even back then, the way our journeys have paralleled, I think we could have had some really, really amazing conversations back then.
Yeah.
So just to sort of share, Dr. Amigues, she is also, sort of a former fertility patient who ended up, successful on her journey. And so also providing that lens to think. So actually, why don't we jump in there? We'll put all your information in the show notes, of course, but can you share a little bit about your own fertility story? And,
Absolutely.
And we can start there.
And I would say that, oh yeah, it's gonna be. I'm gonna be very very raw, very honest about this journey, because it was one of the hardest time of my life, honestly. So I'm a physician. I'm French, and I did medical school and residency in France, and fellowships. It's combined, and then I moved to the U.S. To be with who became my husband and the dad of my kids. And honestly, I think that the journey led to our ultimate divorce, because it's so painful, right? And what happened is that I was doing another residency, so very stressful. But the third year of the residency, I was like, well, it's time, right? Like I can't remember, I'm at early 30s. I don't want to wait too long. And the third year of residency is a great time to have kids. A great time. It's a better time than the first year, for sure. And we became pregnant super fast, super fast. And because I was in New York City, my OBGYN did a bunch of genetic testing, even though I had zero history. And I found out that I had this a carrier. I was a carrier of X fragile, and I didn't remember anything about it. And I was just like, it's kind of remind me of like mental delay. And and so the person that's on the phone, like my OBGYN was on the phone and clearly busy, like I can give her a lot of excuses and all this. And basically she was clearly reading from the paper. She's like, yeah. There's a risk of mental delay. And also it's good that you're pregnant now because there's a risk of infertility and of being, premature ovarian failure. And I was in clinic between patients as a resident, so super busy. And like, I'm like thrown out of this in my face. And it was a shock. and like right, and so then she's like, okay, you're going to see a genetic counselor, but the truth is that you have time to get to see the genetic counselor. And we all know, like, the genetic counselor is like, well, you know, this race, that race, we don't know. Well, I basically lost the baby, and I was at 13 weeks. And the truth is, I was like, I was sick, and I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what my you know, like my ex-husband, we didn't know what he wanted. We were all like in a turmoil of emotion. And yeah, we had a miscarriage pretty late. I think it was 13 weeks. And it just made sense. Like, you know, you're like, I don't know if I want this baby or not, right? And what's very interesting is that after that, it took us a full year to even want to try, because it was like, well, I don't know if I want a kid that's and after a full year of kind of trying, we went to IVF with this idea of let's do IVF to see, you know, then you can choose what you're having, and we're going to choose a girl. And and it's so funny because I'm telling you this chronologically, but since then I've really evolved, right?
And it just, can I pause? So for the non-physicians, if you're listening, Fragile X is X-linked. And so that means that boys have the possibility of being potentially more affected because they only have one X chromosome. And then, you know, girls, because they have two X chromosomes, might be less affected. And so sometimes we do sex selection for that reason in these X-linked cases because of that. So yes, thank you. We'll keep going with your story. I had no idea, and we're friends, and I've never known this about you. So thank you so much for your generosity in sharing.
Because I've evolved since, and you'll hear like the evolution about this. Ultimately, I have twins, boy and girl, and they are in a gifted and talented program, and I don't know if they have the X, and I do not care. That's the bottom line. So because, right, like if the risk is this mental retardation, like mental delay, they are not mentally delayed, and that's all that mattered to me at that time, and to my to their dad. But yeah, so fast forward, we do the IVF. I think it was kind of like successful in the induction. We had 18 ovocytes, and then they go with, you know, they put they create embryos, and only 4 were made. And then out of the 4, there was one that had trisomy, one that had, I can't remember, but basically only one was okay, and it turned out it is a boy. So it's at XY, and I'm like, well, let's try. I mean, it's, you know, it's life, we'll still try. It didn't take. You wonder why it didn't take, right? And again, this is like, that's why when I say I wish I had you at the time, I really mean it. What's really interesting is that in terms of coaching and help and therapy, I've done a lot since, but at the time I didn't do so much. Plus I had moved from France to the US. I didn't have so much like support. But yeah, so fast forward, it doesn't work. And you know, when you start, like, I was in New York City, and there's not that many kids, and there's not that many pregnant women, I'll be honest, compared to a lot of other places in the US. But all I saw was that. All I saw was that. And I was just like, that's what I want. I had always wanted to be a mom with their dad, and that's all I really truly wanted. And it just couldn't work, and it couldn't happen. And like, we tried again. I think I had another miscarriage, which, you know, was kind of like, in a way, it was actually good, because I was like, well, okay, I can become pregnant, so that's a good thing. But it's not staying. But okay, let's figure this out. And then after another year of like thinking, at one point I told you know, what, like, my ex-husband, I told him, I was like, you know, I think we have to be honest with ourselves. The truth is that we would never have done this test. Like, this test kind of came, we would never have done it. I have no family story whatsoever of any sort of ex-fragile in my family. Like, we would not have known. And I understand when you have a baby that has a genetic issue, that you're going through a lot, and then maybe you don't want to have a second one. But I was like, I'm just happy to have a baby. I want them to be normal. But this ex-fragile doesn't mean that you're going to have delay. Anyway, we don't know. And I just feel like we're doing a lot of tests, and ultimately, like, this is not really helpful. And so I went in and I was like, we tried again, it didn't work. like naturally. And then I went to see another fertility specialist, and it's really interesting. I really just loved her. She looked at me and she's like, "We can get you pregnant. I can get you pregnant." And I was like, "Okay." And she's like, "Yeah, we're just helping the process be faster. That's all we're doing with all of our medication." It just made sense. And at the time, my insurance had changed, and my insurance was like, "You need to do Clomid." And I did, and she was like, "Yeah, we'll see if Clomid works. We'll give it for 3 months. And if that doesn't work, then we can move on to IVF or IUI." And we did Clomid, and bam, I'm like pregnant with twins. And what's really interesting is that at the moment, at that time, they were like, "Do you want to do genetic testing?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's do." So we did the blood, and then I was like, "Okay, well, we'll have at least one boy." And I was so excited to be a mom that I didn't care, honestly. And also, like, is the baby gonna stay, right? You don't know. Like, when you have, like, I have PTSD from all of that. And then ultimately, basically every time I would see the doc, they would tell me, "Do you want to do an amniocentesis? Do you want to do an amniocentesis?" And at one point I was like, "Look, I have twins. What are you offering?" And they are like, "Well, if it is like, if there is one that has the X fragile, then we can do a selective
Reduction.
fecundation." And so I was like, "Yeah, what does that mean?" Well, KCL, so basically you're killing the heart. And I was just like, "No, I don't want that." And every time I was like, "I get it, I understand what you're offering, and I do not want it." And I have to say, like, I know as a physician what we're doing, but I was just like, dang, like I had to have done this whole journey to really be like, "Stop it. I want to be a mom." Like, normally in another
Wow.
universe, I would not know about Excel fragile and so on. And then
Wow.
fast forward, I'm going to just share the final story, right? Fast forward, and it's funny when my OBGYN or the reproductive endocrinologist had told me, "You're pregnant." She was like, "I have a good news and a less good news. Good news is you're pregnant, and the less good news is that it's twin." And I was like, "How is that a bad news?" And I'm like super happy. She was like, "Well, it's just a little harder, right? Like, you may have more complications." And I was like, "Okay, well, at least making up for the time lost, right?" And and then the babies came super early. They came like at 24 weeks. I
Oh,
arrived to, no, they arrive at 25 and 7, 25 and 5.
but
But I
still,
arrived for my third trimester checkup, like 24 weeks, the beginning. And I think it's the third, whatever, 24 weeks. I arrive in bike, and I have my swimming suit on the backpack. And I'm like, "I'm going to go to aqua gym. I'm so excited. I'm finally feeling less exhausted. I'm entering this trimester. I'm so excited about it." And they're like, "No, you're staying." And I couldn't believe them. And I was like, "What do you mean that you're staying?" And it's only when they started saying you're going to need steroids that I was like, "Wait, you're actually really serious here."
mm,
I thought this was a joke. They're like, "No, this is not a
oh,
joke. Like, it's open." And I was like, "Okay."
oh,
And I stayed in, and after I think a week and a half, basically they came. And what's really interesting is that coming so early, there's more risk of them. There would have been more risk of them to be mentally delayed, or I don't know how you call that. I'm sure there's a more
yeah,
American appropriate word to say that. But to have mental issues then, or developmental
yeah,
delay, then there would have
yes,
been with the X fragile. And so then you're like, life is life. You don't
that's
like,
right.
there's no perfection. And I'm gonna just say, like, fast forward. So I remember I was like, every time I would see those babies that were like, translucid, their eyes were not open, and I would be like just singing lullabies, because I was like, "I'm a mom. That's all that matters." and uh,
Mm.
and their dad was like, he's awesome, and he was like just reading everything on UpToDate because he's a physician, and he's such a smart physician. Um, and he's such a kind man as well, right? Again, and it was just like, this is so good. And so he would be the physician and I would be the mom. And I was like, I'm being in my mom's state. That's all I'm doing. And yeah, the kids now are 9, and they are in highly gifted for one, gifted and talented for the other one. They speak 2 languages. They are like 99 percentile in math and in reading. And
Wow.
I mean, I guess it's their dad, but like, it's just, you're
Don't
seeing
say that,
that
my
and you're
friend,
like,
please.
"Oh,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. It's like all of us, right?" But it's just, you do not know. And I think we want to have control of everything. And I think we want to have control on our pregnancy, and especially as physician, we think that we have control. And it's really the day that I was like, you know what, like I'm done. I have zero control over this. And the thing that was really painful for me is that I wasn't a green card. I became a green card thanks to the kid, actually, in a really interesting thing. But honestly, it's literally, I would have adopted, but I couldn't, right? And it's
Oh,
funny to see
wow.
that all of the levels of me being in control were gone. I had no control over everything. And it's only the moment I said, I'm ready for whatever. And honestly, at one point, I was like, I started climbing, rock climbing, like pretty seriously. And it's funny, it's then, and I was like, oh, well, I'm now pregnant. And I remember I did, oh my gosh, I did for the first time, how do you call this? You know, the thing on the water and waterboard, like wakeboard, like you should not do this if you have never done it, because it's super taxing. And so I had like bleeding and I was freaked out. And then I was like, why did I do that? But at the same time, I was like, I'm fed up of doing everything to have a baby and it's not happening. And so I'm going to just live my life and including the wakeboarding while pregnant. And I was like, maybe I should be more careful. But yeah, so that's the story. And it's a good story. And the thing that's really interesting is that it doesn't last. It's not finished there. Like being pregnant is just the first part of this huge journey of being a parent, which is like the hardest job in the whole world, right? It's there's zero control. You have no control.
Oh my gosh. Oh, they're so rich. And thank you so much for sharing your story. It's, gosh, you've gone through so much in terms of like, the struggle to get pregnant and the miscarriages and having the babies early and not knowing how it would all turn out and all those things. But I do think what you said is that it was when you gave up the control,
Mhm.
when you surrendered, and that's when it happened. And
Yeah.
so can you say a little bit more about like how did you do that? Was it like a conscious thing? Was it like you truly were so fed up? You're like, okay, I've tried everything. Like that's it.
Yeah.
Because I wish I could bottle that up in my practice. And I
Yeah.
think the more we hear stories of how people were able to turn it over to
Yeah.
whatever, whoever,
You know,
it's helpful to think
yeah,
about
it's
that.
very funny. I'm always very inspired by people who trust God so much that they are like, yeah, whatever happens is yours, right? And I'm a scientist, so I believe I believe in something, but I cannot say that I trust them that much. like I can see that there's a difference between me and the people who are really trusting. Like, and it's always been fascinating to me because it's basically how I approach this, but it wasn't like anything to do with God. But at one point I was just like, I've got to trust that no matter what, I'm happy. And no matter what, I'm okay. And this is or is not the path towards my best life. And it's okay. And I so what's really interesting is that I kept visualizing myself mom. When the kids were born, I kept imagining them older. And so you know, uh, the moment I really let go of the outcome is actually really interesting. It's the same time then in medicine, so medicine in France is very different. It's very competitive. I mean, I think it's very competitive here, but the
Yeah.
way it works in France is that everyone is allowed to get in the first year, and then it's super competitive. At the end of the first year, you have this big exam, and they only take a certain amount of people. So to give you an example, we were 860, and they only took 60 people. And
Wow.
yeah, and I was so like it was really so much what I wanted, so much. And one day I was like, I need to stop with this because I'm putting so much energy in the fear of, am I going to make it? Am I not going to make it? It's not helping me. I'm using this energy instead of studying. And I would rather study or like enjoy myself, right? And I remember just drawing myself. I'm not a good drawer. And I drew myself and I put like as if there were, when you're calling something is called like rapid response team, and
Yeah.
it's over the speakers. I put Dr. Amigues requested room 901. I just put that. I put me with my hair, like curly hair, and in a white coat, which was not well drawn. And I folded that drawing and I put it in one of the drawer and I never looked back. I mean, I found it one day and I was just like, oh, that's really cool. And what's really interesting is that I never did this again until the pregnancy. And okay, believe it or not, this is crazy. I drew this drawing maybe 6 months becoming pregnant or 3 months, not so long before, I would say that. I drew
Sure.
myself with 2 kids in the arms.
Wow.
It was insane. And I was like, and it's not that I wanted to have twins. It's just that that's what came. I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
might as well have two, if I'm going to have one, I might as well have two. And I put that away. And I can't remember. I found it another time and I was like, I'm really not a good drawer. Uh, one baby was kind of okay. The other one was kind of not great. I looked tired. And, and it's fascinating to me because we fast forward 5 years later. No, was it 3 years? 3 or 4 years later, considering the pregnancy, right? I developed a cancer, and I did the same thing. I drew myself healthy, and a little tired, and cancer free on top. It doesn't really get cancer free, and
Wow.
like cured. I think I wrote cured, and I
Wow.
wrote like I had myself like with drawings like the hair, and I had less hair and tired. And I joke later that I wish I had put more hair because maybe I would have had more hair. And I wish I had not put, the me a little tired after the chemo. But yeah, it's 3 times I've done that, and I've done it, since for the practice that I have created. And I don't know, there are some studies that are showing visualization is important, but I think the really cool thing here is that drawing allowed my brain to be in that outcome. But then I basically said, I'm done. This is my vision. This is the outcome that I think I want, but I'm going to
Yeah.
trust. I like at the end of the day, I have zero control if this cancer is going to respond to the chemo. Like, I don't know. I have zero control over if I'm going to be a mom. I have zero control over the fact if I'm going to be one of the 60 people who are going to make it in medicine. The only thing I control is if I show up to the chemo, is if I have sex to have kids. I do show up to the, whatever, like if I take those medication. But at the end of the day, you can only do what you can do. And there's so
Yeah.
much we have no control over. And like just putting all of this energy there, um, it just
Yeah.
it just doesn't help, right? It's like, and it's very interesting because I've listened to Olympia, like the Olympic Games were in Paris, became a little bit interested in that, and listening to the mental preparation of the Olympians is fascinating because it's literally the same thing. They can only control the amount of work that they put in, but the moment they start thinking of will I make it, will I not make it, they don't make it. And it's only like I did my best, like, and I'm really like, whatever happened, I did my best. I did everything that I could do. I prepared my uterus with good thoughts and love, the best mom version that I could be. And at the end of the day, I did my best. And that's all that
That's
matters.
amazing because, you are an accomplished physician, you are a scientist, you're now a mom. And I think so many of us type A individuals really, we try to use old sort of coping strategies that worked in the past for things that were maybe
Yeah,
smaller. And we say, okay, we're going to apply them to this problem, but it doesn't work for this model. And so I think what you said is so brilliant because you have all the power of the intention and the belief. When you can see the picture, you can feel it in your body, right?
yeah,
But what slows us down, what, this negative thinking, this self-doubt, this lack of trust, this hypervigilance, all of it, it actually makes our bodies work less well. And
yeah.
so whatever our highest good is, we can't fully receive that. And again, this is not a judgmental space. This is how can we help other beautiful, strong, confident,
Mhm.
competent women who deserve to be mothers get to that point of receiving and reaching their dreams. And I think you're right. It's that belief, that trust, that seeing it. We even have visualizations at Love and Science where we actually like visualize the meditations where we visualize the embryo finding a beautiful place. I
Yes,
do this with my clients, specifically
I
certain
love
ones.
that.
Actually, a woman just messaged me, actually even last night, a picture of her and her new baby. And, back, I remember, I think she had her embryo transfer in March, and like over and over and over again, we do our one-on-ones. Hey, can we do that visualization again? Absolutely. And I think that we talk about that, manifestation, and people say it's
Yes.
woo and all of that stuff. But one thing I love about your work so much is that you really say, okay, how can we have hope that is grounded in science? And I think, what you did on a scientific level is you let your body work by
Yes.
not burdening it with all the negativity. And, do you have any thoughts about that? Because I also think it sounds like that's what you did with your cancer journey too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so I've think so much of all of that. And you and I have a very similar approach. You say what I
We
love your
do.
work.
We
Yeah.
do.
And it's like, so right, as a physician, I remember like giving a talk, someone at my institution before I opened my practice was like, Isabelle, you need to share your talk. Like you need to share your journey. And I remember just sharing, the first thing I did was say, I'm a very optimistic physician. And the reason I'm a very optimistic physician is that I see medical miracle every day in my practice,
Yes.
right? And so I have patients who've come and seen 10 of a rheumatologist. They come to my practice, they get into remission. And so you can, it's not me, it's them, it's their work.
Yeah.
But it's this allowing them to see, what are you holding on to that's
Yeah.
not allowing your body to heal, right? Because we have amazing medication, right? So I've been thinking about this because when I had to deal with my own health crisis, um, uh, I remember thinking, well, look, this is serious. And for the auditors, like it was stage 4. It was oligometastatic, and I kept holding on to those terms. I'm like, it's oligo only.
Which term did you say? Which term are you holding on to?
Oligometastatic, because it
Oh,
wasn't metastatic. It was oligos, which means a few. But I was a little bit in the bone and in the liver, right? And so not
wow.
great. At the same time, I was like, okay, this is a way for this to tell me, like, I honestly feel, I'm going to be honest here. If I had just been stage 3, it was 95% cure. And so I was like, I would not have paused and listened to it as much as I did when it was like, okay, well, your life is at stake now. And I started thinking, okay, I want the placebo on my side, number one. And I don't know what placebo is. What I know is that if someone gives me a red pill, it's not going to work because I'm a physician, right? So how can I leverage that placebo effect for me? And I started looking at my own journey as a physician, what had worked for my patients, and realizing that why, like, because I had always wondered, why is it that my patients don't die? Like when my colleague would say, oh, we had another death. And I was like, what are you talking about? It's rheumatology. No one dies. And they're like, yeah. And I was like, well, am I lucky that I get patients who are less severe? And then I was looking and I was like, no, I'm getting vasculitis. I'm getting like actual, you know,
Yeah.
patients who are
Serious. Yeah.
severe. And I was like, why is it that my patients do so well? I get all my patients to remission. Like, why is it that they, and it's not me, again, it's the patients that does the work, right?
Mhm.
But why is it that what I'm witnessing is patients who do so well, and some other doctors apparently don't have that experience? And I started listening to patients who would come to me after they had seen other docs. And I realized like I give them hope. And it's the words that I use. It's the fact that exactly the same way that this physician had told me, Isabelle, I can't get you pregnant, right? Like, where do you hear this in the US? We're so afraid, like the US is so afraid of telling something that they may not get, that they stop offering hope. And our job as physician is to give hope to our patients. Like, if we don't give hope to our patients, don't you worry, they're going to find on internet all the bad things anyway. So my job is
Right.
to reassure them and to tell them that the science is well more advanced than Google, right? And so I had seen that. I started realizing that. And so when I had to deal with my own journey, I had the experience of having kids already when it had been so hard. So I had realized, like, look, you are not in control. I'm going to start meditating. Like, how can I, I'm going to do visualization. And And I started surrounding myself with only people who were seeing me as healthy. And so that's like, see me as I'm perfect. This is just a journey moment. This is not defining me. And yeah, it's the power, like call it placebo. Like, I mean, really, like placebo can be up to 50% in psychiatry, 30%, it's up to 40% in rheumatology. Rheumatology is immune system. So we have to be, as physician, accepting of the fact that there is something that our mind does, because that's what placebo does, right? Like it's our mind does that heals us. And the same way that nocebo, right? That actually is causing issues. And so in my work as a physician with myself was to say, I'm showing up for when I have chemo, but I'm going to do everything else. And I'm gonna try everything. I tried everything. I tried acupuncture. I didn't like it so much. It's funny because I do it now, but at the time I didn't like it. I tried energy healing. I tried Reiki. I tried some Qigong. I tried meditation, visualization. I tried a lot. And then ultimately I kind of like created this whole journey for myself where I was like, every day for 1 hour, I do this for me, right? And yeah, I think it's the power of the words, that we tell ourselves. It's the power of trusting, like, right? And letting go. It's this moment of, well, I may not be a doctor, and that's okay. I may not be a mom this way, and that's okay. And then there was this real moment where I was like, I may not live for this. I may die, and that's okay. And all of this, because at the end of the day, like we don't know. Like one of my a guy that I knew from when I was a kid, literally during the whole chemo journey, I'm almost laughing because it was just like laughable. I was just like, this is crazy. He died in the Canadian mountains, eaten by a grizzly. How common is
Oh
like
my
how common is that?
goodness. Right. You never know. Just like you said, the preterm delivery that you didn't anticipate, it was
Exactly.
probably, more scary than the Fragile X thing. It's like,
Yes,
my mother always says, like, it's always like, look, don't be afraid because it's the things that you're worrying about,
that happened. Yeah,
those are probably not going to happen. It's probably something else that's not even on your radar, which is the
that's true.
thing that's going to
But then
happen.
people are going to be worried for all of it. And
That's right. Well, that's right. Cause it's like, and Dr. Una, our colleague says like worrying is praying for that which you wish not to happen.
oh, I
And so,
love that. I didn't,
yeah.
well, of course, she's so good.
So but
Uh,
you're right. It's about the energy we expend because when we
yes,
are not spending the energy, and I believe in the energetic body, I actually think that that's part of why the placebo effect works is because our
yeah,
energetic vectors are aligned and our
yes,
immune systems work better. And we don't have these energetic blocks. And it's a lot of Eastern medicine as well. But we're not, when we're angry, we're spending so much energy being angry that we don't
yes,
even move ourselves forward. Yes, feel the anger, process it, let it go. Because
yes,
we don't want to hold ourselves back
yeah,
from everything that we're doing. So I think about vector alignment a lot. I didn't even love physics, which is funny, but like I think about we want all of our vectors going in the same direction. So if I have a patient and they're smoking, I'm like, guess what? That vector is pointing backwards. We need to turn that vector around. If our
yes,
mindset is in the toilet, then that
yeah,
vector is absolutely hurting us. And we need to figure a way to point that arrow in the other direction. So that
yes.
force is bolstering us, not holding us forward. And I think a lot of it is actually related to energy. So I'm
Yeah, I love that. And I just try to not use the word energy like this because it means so much and so little, right?
yeah,
But I would say that there's a book I started reading during that time called What is Real by Adams Becker, I believe. And it explains the history of quantum physics. I don't necessarily understand quantum physics, but there is one thing that's fascinating. It's the Schrodinger cat, where basically, depending on the observer where you are, if the observer is seeing the cat dead, the cat is dead. If the observer is seeing the cat alive, the cat is alive. And so for me, I'm like, this is what I'm visualizing. I
yes,
want all my energy to see the cat alive, unless you really don't
yes.
like your cat. I love my cat. And so I'm seeing that this is where I want to be. And yes, there's all of those other options. I just don't, I'm not being like, oh, I don't want to see them. As a physician, our job is to look at that, right? And to think of all of this.
Sure.
But I'm like, well, I've already looked at all of this. This is what I recommend, like if we do all of this, but this is where my energy is going to go. I'm seeing the cat alive. Yeah, the cat could be dead, but that's not where I'm looking. I'm looking at the cat is alive because I've already accepted the fact that the cat dead is a possibility, but that's not where my energy is going. Yeah.
That's amazing. And I think that is our role as physicians. You know, I always say, I believe in you. Like, I believe in
Yes.
your ability to become a mom. I believe in your ability to become pregnant. Like, that doctor gave you permission to be a
Yes.
mom for things
Absolutely.
to work.
Yeah.
So I guess my question for you, Dr. Amik, is how would you translate this into the fertility journey? Because, you know, not only are you a physician who helps your patients navigate this every single day, but you're also somebody who has walked the walk, has had the actual struggles. So, what would you say to people in terms of visualization, mindset?
Yeah.
You know, but when it's such a dark time, you know,
Yeah.
I always, with my clients, I always say, like, one of my pillars is authentic hope. We gotta,
Yeah.
we
I
gotta
love that.
actually, for you specifically, what are the scientific factors that make sense for you to stay in the game? Like, what is actually in your favor? And I call those out because we got to focus on those things. So that's a
Yes.
me-ism. But like, what would you say from your personal and professional experience to impart to the listeners who are mostly female physicians who
Yeah.
mostly have not yet achieved their
I'm
dreams yet?
I'm going to say something. It's kind of what got me. I was in New York City, so tons of gay population, and this is what I was thinking. I was like, if gay people can have babies that are biologic, I can have a baby that's biologic,
Yeah.
right? So that's like I kind of like was like in the first thing. Like first of all, I have the proof of concept. There are
Yeah.
gay people that are baby like able to have biologic kids, right? Gay men that are having biologic kids. So that's number one. So the science is incredibly powerful. I think that that's the number one. The science is incredibly powerful. And then the second is like I think the anger and the stress is it's good to let it go. One way that I do it is for journaling. When I'm really upset or stressed, I journal. I never read what I've written. It just allows me to just like get it out on paper, get it out, get it out, get it out. And what's really interesting is the beginning of the journey, the journaling is usually very different than the end of the journaling. And sometimes it takes 5 minutes, sometimes it takes, much more time.
Yeah.
But the end is usually much more relaxed. It's almost like, I let it out. I was stressed out. I was upset, but I let it out.
Yeah.
And so that's, the journaling. And then the meditation, there's so much data about meditation and vision. Meditation definitely is there are a ton of data showing that it decreases the inflammation. So talk about energy, right? If you have less inflammation, you have less energy into the inflammation and your body can heal. And then visualization is a big one for me. Some people love affirmation. I'm never that good at doing affirmation, but sometimes I do it. And
Mhm.
there is data for all of those things. There is I looked at the data in rheumatology because that's that's where I'm professional at. Because the truth, and so this is super interesting. The truth is that as physician, our job is to show the data. As patients, we can do whatever we want, whatever makes us feel good. And so if we want to do a visualization with a carrot in our mouth, we can do that if we think that it's going to help us. It doesn't matter. No
Yeah.
one should judge us. It does, whatever makes us feel good. If I want to have a stuffy with me because that stuffy is giving me hope, I don't know why I made that. Maybe my stuffy. It's same thing, right? And I think sometimes, we'll go to a church and we'll put a candle. I've done that, like I've done that. Um, and I have had friends that have prayed for me and, things like that. And I think that anything that we feel is good for us,
Mhm.
with starting with the first thing, which is of letting go. And it's hard to let go, especially female physician, because we're in control. We're terribly in control. That's why we became physician, right? We wanted to have control over a disease, over an outcome, over death. For me, I wanted to be in control of death. Really interesting, right? And just move from that idea of control and just let our body do its work, because our body can heal. And so, yeah, that's where I am. And I tell you, like the odds were not in my favor, but I did it. I mean, it's not me, like my body did it. It's all the little cells in my body that I consider kids, and I love them.
That's amazing. That is, and
Yeah.
that's such great advice for all of us. And I think that's why it's so hard to be a physician patient, because it's like we try to retain the control and the data and read the studies and all that. And I say, let me do that for you. You know, whether I'm a coach or a physician, I will distill the data, right? And that's why
Yeah.
having a trusting relationship with your doctor is so important, or your coach. I also think that part of this is what does feel good to us. I mean, in medicine, for so many years we don't pee for hours, we don't, you know, really enjoy what we eat, we don't have the fresh air. Like, so many of us give up the hobbies that we used to love. And so I think even like when we, you know, the nice thing about having a crisis, not that we would ever wish it, is it brings up these existential questions. It causes us to self-examine ourselves, to say, like, who am I? What do I actually need? What feels good to me in this moment? If it's a friend praying for me, I have a friend who's a Reiki healer. Somehow she knows when my energy is off and she sends me a message and clears my chakras. You know,
Totally.
I believe in all of it, right? And it's like, but that's the exciting part, is we actually get to play around and experiment and say, okay, well, maybe acupuncture at this phase in life isn't great, but this feels amazing. And then create our village and create those things
Yes.
that feel good for us, and do it in community too. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna
And
I'm gonna
and I think that
keep
that's an
that.
important one, you know, it's it just came into my mind. It's we're so not good at, like, I mean, I wasn't at least good at taking care of myself,
Yeah.
like properly, right? Like of putting money for myself. But you know, we are thinking of all of the things that are hard as physicians, but we also can think of all of the good stuff. We have the money
Yeah.
to put for ourselves, to get Reiki, to get energy healing, to just try it, just to see if it helps us, to do coaching. The
Yes.
like, yes, there are things that are maybe stacked a little bit against us, although really being a physician is pretty awesome. And
It is.
then we also have amazing stuff about being a physician. And I think we have to allow ourselves to say, hey, maybe our body is telling us, hey, you need help. Like, hey, need like body. Like I always think of my body talking to me like, hey, I need some time off right now. Like, please, like, take care of yourself. Like, I'm not gonna have a baby if you're constantly running. I refuse.
That's right. We have to figure out what that new life might look like and start
Yeah.
believing in it now. Um, I want to ask you one more question before we end the session. And if there's anything more that you want to say, please feel free. But I'm curious about these drawings that you did. So you drew yourself as a physician. I don't care the quality of these drawings, but you
Yes, they were
saw
pretty
it, you
bad.
believed it, right? You drew yourself with two babies, one in each arm, right? You drew yourself cancer-free and cured. So where are those drawings? Did you release them? Did you save them? Like, what is your process for that?
No, because I basically, you know, I think it just came to me like, oh, let me do this drawing.
Yeah.
I was just like, you know, so how do you call that? Like it was so in my mind. I kept like, you know, that
Yeah,
I
had to
just
get it
had
out.
to draw them. I
Yeah.
drew it and I put it in a drawer. I don't know, maybe it's, I don't think this is not the desk that I had before. I put them in a drawer and that was it.
Yeah.
And I don't think I found a drawing with the babies much later in time when I cleaned up, when we moved. And I was like, wow, that's cool. I had forgotten about that.
It's so
Um,
interesting. So
yeah.
that in and of itself, it's its own sort of letting go. You get it out and then
Yeah,
you, yeah,
totally.
and then you
It
move on.
wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna put this. Yeah, it's a little different. Those are different than I have like a vision board on my phone. Right now, I don't, but I have my kids on my phone. But normally I have a vision board on my phone. But then I was like, well, I've already like, it's pretty good. My year has been pretty good. And so I think it's different. Like one of the things for my vision board was I wanted to be fitter, like more fit. And so that I kept seeing that body with like my face on top. My friends
That's
laugh
awesome.
that my face is on top of this really awesome body. And I was like, I mean,
That's awesome.
there's one where I'm rock climbing, you know, completely like backwards and with my face, same face, with a big smile. And they're like, yeah, no, you're not like that. This is totally not relatable. And yeah, it was really funny. Like when my friend saw that in a church and it was very quiet in France and she starts laughing. And I was like, what's happening?
So funny.
It was really funny. But yeah, I think those are different. Those are goals
Yeah.
versus an outcome that is so dear to me that it's kind of like taking all the space in my mind. And at one point, I'm like, I need to let it go. And that's why I'm doing the drawing and I'm putting it somewhere where I'm not looking at.
That's
It's
so
out.
interesting.
Yeah, it's out.
And we actually had a night at Love and Science for one of our support groups. We did a vision board night where we all just like played music and talked and did vision boards together. I do think that this drawing, and letting go exercise, I think that's something I will offer to my
Yeah.
clients.
Yeah, because
And thank
you
you so much
have
for
to do
that
meditation
suggestion.
before to be in that
To be in
space.
the state and
Yeah.
then,
So meditation and then maybe some journaling, just,
yeah,
what are the fears? What would it look like to have babies? And, you start
yeah,
with the fears and then you move on to what is it going to look like to have babies? Like, how will I feel when I'm delivering my babies and my, and I'm a mom,
that's,
and it definitely was a journey for me that was very, very tough, but it's so wonderful. And it's just, yeah, I don't know. It's just life.
yeah, that's amazing. And I always say, this is the reality is fertility is not the last hard thing that's going to happen.
No.
And so, you applied what you learned through that journey, through your cancer journey and through your patients as well.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your generosity and sharing. I would love for my clients, my listeners, my patients, everybody hearing this to go and follow you, to go find you. So where can they find you, my friend?
So it's UnabridgedMD. So that's the name of this movement that I'm creating about bridging Western and Eastern medicine. And I'm starting with rheumatology. And so UnabridgedMD for anything social media and so on. And then www. Oh, I don't know why people say unabridgedmd.com.
Yeah.
There's no need for those. I mean, put those three W's, but unabridgedmd.com. And then I have a YouTube channel. I have a podcast actually called Unabridged MD.
Yes, it's
I do
amazing. You all
think,
should
yeah,
listen.
I love it. Yeah, I do like it. And then,
I'll put all this information in the
oh,
show
cool.
notes, but
Yeah.
I want people to hear it.
And
The
then for
best place
people,
would you say is your website? Yeah.
yeah, I think that everything is there. And then there's a rheumatology 101 by Dr. Amigues on YouTube where I put, I do a live in rheumatology only.
Yeah. Because a lot
Yeah.
of my patients and my clients also have rheumatological diseases. This was so much more interesting to talk about your life and your story,
Yeah.
but that's a whole other
We
topic that
can
maybe we'll
talk.
have you back sometime and we can talk about
Exactly.
the overlap of those two things. So thank you so much for sharing your journey and your time, your insights. It's just a gift anytime I get to spend time with you, my friend. And
Oh, same.
until the next time, I love
Yeah.
you, my audience. I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Love and Science podcast. I'm so glad you joined us today. If you found this conversation valuable, if you could please rate, review, and share this podcast with your trusted people, it would mean so much to me. If you want more tools to help you navigate the fertility journey, please book a discovery call with me today. The link is in the show notes. Please do not let infertility have the final word. I'm here to take the burden from you so that you can achieve your goal of building your family. In gratitude, this is Dr. Erica Bove. I'm rooting for you always.